Welcome to Shenkman Education. My name is Marty Shenkman, and our topic, I was inspired by the sign, notice the hat, vacation home planning. Many families have vacation homes that have been in the family for generations, or it's a new vacation home that the current family loves and the kids love and the grandkids love, and you want to pass it down to the generations. How can you go about that, and what are some of the personal issues that might need to be addressed? We're going to address religious issues, probably inappropriate location, but it's where I thought of the idea. And we've seen this a lot, and it's a little different than I think a lot of people imagine. So here's the concept. You have a vacation home, you want to pass it on for generations to come so the kids and the grandkids and everyone can go and enjoy it. And it can be a legacy and a memory for the family. It's a wonderful thought. Many people like to do it. How do you go about it? There's lots of different approaches. I'm going to really just talk about one because I think it's probably the optimal, maybe a bad word to use, but it's a good approach in many cases. But again, everything depends on your facts and circumstances. So here's the concept. The parents or the senior generation that has the vacation home, some call it a cottage, camp, whatever, they set up a dynastic trust, a trust that will last as long as state law permits. If the numbers, the value involved is sufficient, or the wealth in the family is sufficient, if you can't get a trust that lasts perpetually forever in your state, you can create a trust in a jurisdiction, a state that has more favorable laws that can go on for a longer period of time. You then have the vacation property, vacation home, camp, cottage, transferred to a limited liability company, or LLC. There are numbers of reasons to do that. One is you can create a management and decision structure for the vacation home, which is quite important. You could do that in the trust, but it just seems more commonly done, and maybe better done in an LLC, and I'll explain how in a second. So let's say we're going to keep it simple. Parents, mom, dad, one of them creates, or both of them create a dynastic trust, probably better for one of them to do it. That trust can either be in your home state, or if you want better laws, longer duration, in tax legal jargon, the rule against perpetuities is longer in the state you select instead of your home state. You then set up a limited liability company. If your trust is created in a different jurisdiction, Alaska, Nevada, South Dakota, Delaware, because they have very favorable laws, you might consider forming the LLC in that state and having it authorized to do business in the state in which you live. Then you have the LLC purchase, if it's a brand new one, or just acquire by gift, the vacation home. So you could deed the vacation home from your name into the LLC. The LLC is owned by and was formed by the trust. You now have a long-term or perpetual trust that owns an entity, an LLC, that owns the family vacation home. You want to stay in the family for generations to come. Why the structure and the complications? First, if any of the family members get sued, the house, the vacation home, is not owned by anybody. It's owned by a trust. It's protected and safe. If you're looking to pass on a legacy, you want to protect it, this structure makes sense. Second, the LLC itself may provide another measure of protection from suits or claims. The LLC may make the asset, the vacation home, intangible, so it's not subject to the laws of the state where it's located. And instead, the trust that's in a different state, so let's say you're a Massachusetts vacation home on Cape Cod, sign, and you have an Alaska dynastic trust, good choice, and you have that Alaska dynastic trust that goes on forever, form an LLC in Alaska, have it authorized in Massachusetts to do business, and have it own the vacation home. Another, and this is really important, reason to have an LLC, and again, you could integrate a lot of this in the trust, but I kind of like doing it rules and regulations in the operating agreement for the LLC. An operating agreement is a legal document that governs the functioning, operation, maintenance of the LLC. And in the rules and regulations, you can address all sorts of things. One of the common fights or disputes that I've seen with children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the families down the generational line when they want to access and use a vacation home, is there are certain times a year, whether it's Christmas, if it's a ski chalet, ski season, if everyone's got little kids, it's going to be when school's out, that different family units want to use the vacation home, and there's at some point down the generational line, there's too many people to use it all at the same time. And when that happens, what we've created is a rotational system in the operating agreement. So if there's 2 kids or 2 family lines, you know, in the odd years, Janie gets it, in the even years, Tommy gets it, or whatever you want. The kids can agree, the heirs can agree to anything they want to do and trade and switch and swap, but this way, if there's a mechanism, there's nothing to fight about. Another issue we've seen come up, not infrequently, many families have very deep felt religious beliefs. They may be Latter-day Saints and not want drinking, or maybe not gambling on the premises, or smoking. If your faith-based beliefs impact the use of the home, you can make that part of the rules and the regulations incorporated into the operating agreement that everyone has to agree to, because that's what governs the use of the house, because the LLC owns it. It could be you're Hindu, you want the kitchen to remain vegetarian, or you're Muslim, you want halal, you're Jewish, you want kosher. Whatever things are important to your family, because that's part of the legacy too in many cases, you can integrate that into the operating agreement. The other reason I like using an operating agreement is you can structure a manager for the LLC that owns the home. So instead of having what could be in a few years or a few generations, 50 different people trying to make decisions, which will never happen, right? Decision by committee. You can name a manager. If the manager is elected, they can make decisions about repairs, maintenance, improvements, capital improvements, so that it's a simpler process to work. All that functionality can be integrated in the operating agreement. Why do I also like a trust? I mentioned earlier, it's protected if somebody gets sued, somebody gets divorced, they don't own it. It safeguards it for the family. The other reason I like a trust, and one of the important economic concepts when you're creating the structure for that family vacation home, is you need to provide some funding, money, to maintain the home. You could provide that when kids use the home, heirs use the home, they have to pay some dollar amount, X dollars a night, inflation adjusted, or peg it to some standard. There's a lot of things you could build in to get funding. You could mandate that each family line has to contribute something. The easiest, simplest way to avoid all the funding issues is if you can infuse, when you set up the structure, enough money in the trust that will be self-perpetuating, invested, and barring a major issue, provide enough money to maintain the home. Again, even if you do that, you want as a fail-safe something in the operating agreement that may require family members using it to contribute in certain circumstances, because if the trust gets low on money, now you have a real problem. So to summarize, passing on the legacy of a family vacation home or cabin is a beautiful, wonderful thing. You need to think through a lot of different issues to do it well. There's no perfect answer. Every family's different. The finances are different. The personalities are different. The wishes and goals are different. If you have personal preferences, religious preferences, you can integrate that in. Consider some of the personal dynamics of the family and how you can have provisions to address that. Again, they're default provisions. No one's going to care if the kids agree to something else, but you don't want fights. And address the funding in the trust, address the management succession, who could be a manager and how different generational levels will appoint someone to do that. Dispute resolution can all be built in. You could demand in the operating agreement that if any of the family members have disputes, it has to be arbitrated. If it's a religious preference, you could have a religious arbitration body. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful. For more information, go to shenkmaneducation.com. And please remember that any of the information on the video clip is for educational purposes only. Don't take any legal action without appropriate professional advice. Thank you.